Welcome, everyone. My name is Sarah Ray. I'm from the Bloomfield Public Library, and we're excited to have Shana Griffin tonight talking to us about natural detox. Welcome, Shana.
Thank you. Okay, so it is springtime, and as a dietitian, I feel like I get a lot of inquiries about going on some kind of detox. So I thought this would be a perfect time to clear the air and talk about what that actually means. The word detox can actually have some negative verbiage around it. So we're going to clear the air there. For those of you that have never been to one of my programs or know who I am, my name is Shana Griffin. I'm a registered dietitian, and I am also an integrative and functional nutrition practitioner. I work primarily at the ShopRite of Canton in the shops of the Farmington Valley Plaza. But I get to come out and do fun programs. Obviously, through COVID, everything is primarily via virtual right now. So I'm really excited to have you all here. And like Sarah said, I really like to have things interactive, but we will be keeping plenty of time at the end for questions. So I'm gonna just get started here, and let's see. I'm going to move the chat box over there. Okay, perfect. So detoxing, I'm going to jump right into that. We're going to identify common toxins in our daily environment that are associated with different health risks. I'm going to discuss how the body detoxification system works. And then we're going to talk about some dietary strategies for helping to support the liver detoxification process and avoid future exposures. So what a detox isn't, as you can see here on the screen, there's all different types of detox out there. One of the most common would be like the lemon detox diet, or a diet that involves some kind of herbal teas with salt and maple syrup, maybe some cayenne, lots of different juices. Even as you can see here, there's a picture of a plate that really doesn't even have any food on it. So detoxing doesn't mean not eating. A lot of detoxes sold, or if you were to Google detoxing, often I would refer to as being very snake oil-ish. So that is not what I'm going to be talking about today. So what is detoxification? Detoxification is identified as the biochemical process in which non-water soluble compounds are transformed into water soluble compounds that are then excreted by the body through either urine, sweat, or stool. And the benefit to this is it protects your body from adverse effects of external and internal toxins. So why does your body detox? Essentially, all people should be able to detoxify just normally. But with an overload of toxins, an undernourished body, a compromised digestive system, those things can all make for a less effective detoxification process within your body. Detoxification is nutrient dependent. So if you've come to any of my other programs, I talk about nutrient density. We really want to be consuming all different types of colorful fruits and vegetables that are nutrient dense to get all of those vitamins and minerals needed to keep your body healthy. So what is a toxin? A toxin is an irritating substance that is disruptive to the proper functioning of our body. And as I mentioned, how our body detoxifies is through elimination. Elimination with regular bowel movements, through urinating and sweating with physical activity. So if you are not having a bowel movement every single day, That's not necessarily ideal. What is ideal is to eliminate every single day. And then as far as urine, there's a picture on the screen of what color your urine should be. Ideally, we want our urine to be clear, right? Drinking lots of fluids. If your urine is bright yellow, that may indicate dehydration. So, really drinking lots of water is going to help to eliminate and keep your body hydrated. And then regular sweating through physical activity is extremely important as the other way of detoxing. So you see here on the screen, there's a picture of a squatty potty. I don't know if anybody's ever seen one of those or heard of those, but our bodies are anatomically created to be positioned in that particular position with elevated knees, with a slight angle, just like you would squat, outside. Years and years ago, we didn't have toilets where you were sitting up high on a seat. So if you do have issues with having bowel movements on a regular basis, take into consideration how you're positioned on the toilet and maybe consider a squatty potty. So that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself, but I think it's extremely important to mention as part of the topic of discussion today. The other lifestyle supports for healthy detoxification includes adequate, good quality circadian rhythm sleep. So if you're not sleeping well, that really does affect things hormonally, which can affect things in terms of detoxification. Breathing and chewing are things we should become mindful of in terms of how you live your life, how you get through your day, making sure that you're slowing down, taking deep breaths in, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And when you're eating, making sure that you're really chewing your food slowly, 20 times chewing your food, putting your fork down in between each bite, and allowing adequate digestion by chewing thoroughly. De-stressing, obviously there's no easy button. We're all under some level of stress in our lives at any given time, but finding ways to slow down and de-stress, and naturally breathing and taking those little mini meditation moments where you're breathing in your nose and out your nose really do act as a mini meditation session that just naturally helps to decrease cortisol. So these are all free things that we can do on a regular basis in terms of becoming more mindful about our mind-body connection. And then the sauna. I've had people ask me which is better for sweating, a sauna or a steam room. So if you wanted to go that route, honestly, the research supports that a sauna is actually healthier than a steam room. So getting in regular sessions of a sauna, maybe some hot yoga in a really hot setting, doing some yoga, physical activity, would be a benefit and a way to detox in a healthy way. So we're going to jump right in and talk about digestion. So obviously, in terms of detoxifying, adequate digestion is crucial to an overall healthy body. But your gut is made up, or your intestinal ecosystem is made up of trillions of bacterial cells. And there's so your bacteria in your intestine, there's 10 trillion, but within the human body cells, there's 1 trillion. So there's way more bacterial cells in the intestines than anywhere else in the body. And what these things do is they orchestrate together to protect your body from internal and external toxins. It is really the center of your immune system, and it helps to modulate inflammation. And they metabolize carcinogens. They break down our food, and they make B vitamins, and they produce butyrate and short chain fatty acids that nourish our intestinal cells. and they ferment non-digestible fibers that help to increase nutrient absorption. So when we have a gut or a intestinal ecosystem that is out of balance without those good bacteria, as you can see, all of those things, by not making enough of the B vitamins and not metabolizing the carcinogens and not moderating inflammation, really has an upstream and downstream effect on your detoxification system. So good quality probiotics is a great place to start at looking at your diet for making sure that you're putting in your body those good for you probiotics that you need. I'm sure of some of you that have seen my talks before have heard me talk about prebiotics and probiotics, but this is extremely crucial. So where do toxins actually come from? There's exposure to thousands of chemicals everywhere, from the air that we breathe, the pollution, from pesticides and herbicides, from plastics and plasticizers, known as, you probably hear BPA or phthalates, body care products, from shampoo to makeup to lotion to toothpaste, to household cleaning products, to flame retardants, to exhaust and cigarette smoke, to processed foods, to grilled meats and charred broiled processed meats, to food additives and preservatives and artificial colors, medications, drugs, caffeine, and alcohol are all means of environmental and food-based toxins that we put in and on our bodies. And chemicals are associated with many chronic diseases like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, diabetes, Parkinson's, neurological disorders, cardiovascular disease, endocrine and hormonal issues, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, depression, overall just poor energy. So all of these are connected or can be connected with a poor detoxification system and chemicals. So sources of toxins, I think it's important just to go over some of these because as a dietitian, I want to talk about food, but the other 50%, it's not just about what you're putting in your body, it's also the environment. So I want to take this opportunity to show you the science behind all of these other controllable factors. Now, one of the controllable factors that you might not have a lot of control over is air pollution. Depending on where you live and what job you have, there's not as much that you can do about this. But air pollution contributes to cardiovascular disease, and it contributes to oxidative damage, which mutates your DNA and disrupts your autonomic nervous system. So we want a really good functioning detoxification system and eliminate all of the other controllable things that we can do and lower the burden or lessen how much you fill up your bucket of toxins in your body, because this one is a little bit less controllable, but it adds to that bucket. I put this picture on here just to show you how complicated it is, how oxidative stress and the inflammation response and how it can affect everything from cell membrane injury to arterial hypertension to coronary flow to myocardial dysfunction and DNA disruption. So you can see that it's a very, very, very complicated on a cellular level. So one of the most widely used herbicides in the United States is called atrazine, and it is known as an endocrine disruptor. So it can decrease testosterone. It can increase gluconeogenesis, which is the production of glucose. When there is an extra production of glucose, what happens is your body and your pancreas produces insulin, so that can lead to insulin resistance. It can increase inflammation, it can disrupt hormone signaling, and it can increase this P450 enzyme that converts androgens to estrogens. And as part of my functional background, I had really started learning about some of these genetic SNPs and enzymes on a very deep level that sometimes it goes right over my head. It's very complicated, but they're extremely crucial in terms of looking at your genetic as an individual, which really truly is the future of medicine. So it's something that I'm very interested in continuing to wrap my head around to really understand myself and my own individual health, but also take that information and be able to apply it for how I practice as a dietitian. So I think a lot of people have probably heard of glyphosate, which is essentially Roundup. It is one of the other most commonly used herbicides. And it is found conventionally in a lot of foods that are purchased at the grocery store. I think a lot of people use Roundup as maybe their go-to herbicide in their own home gardens. So I would encourage you to take a little bit of a deeper look at that and understand that glyphosate really isn't something that belongs in our food supply. So it prevents formation of amino acids. It inhibits beneficial bacterial growth from your gut microbiome. So it disrupts the gut microbiome, which is something that we absolutely do not want. It has estrogenic properties, so it can increase breast cancer proliferation. It's found in urine of city folk who have not been exposed to agriculture. So therefore, what that means is it's in their food supply. And then glyphosate and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, there is a direct correlation there. So, you know, there's so much information, but I think that is an extremely significant one that is, you know, as you can see, it's from the International Journal of Cancer. So pesticides, they are linked to cancer. Unfortunately. And, you know, I think there's a lot of information floating out around about whether or not it is. It is. There's no question about it. Evidence supports that. It's also linked to endometriosis, which can impact the health of reproductive age women. So this is a picture here of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. This information is from the Environmental Working Group. On the left-hand side of the screen is the Dirty Dozen. So those 12 produce items are the produce items that have the most amount of pesticides used in terms of the harvesting or growing of those items. So strawberries, spinach, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, potatoes, sweet bell peppers are all things that if you have a budget for organic foods, those would be the things that you would want to opt for buying organic. Where maybe you wouldn't need to spend money buying organic things would be the things on the right-hand side of the screen, the Clean 15. So those are the produce items that actually have the fewest pesticides. So maybe not worth spending the extra money on organic avocados or organic pineapple, for example. So you can see the list there on the left-hand side that, you know, if you think about and you're looking at those, a lot of them are things where you're not eating the outside layer, right? We're not eating the skin of pineapples or avocados. When you get your cabbage, you're peeling off those outer layers. Same with the onion. Kind of a lot of people, I think, will peel their eggplant. So if you look at it, a lot of those things are things where maybe you're not eating the outer layer, and they're a little bit more hardy. They're hardier. They're easier to grow, so they don't need as many pesticides. So there's no risk of losing the crop. So that I think is important information to help you save a little bit of money and become more aware of which ones would be beneficial to buy organic. So as for plastics, BPA, it's common in can linings of canned foods, seltzer drinks, plastic bottles, medical devices, paints, cash register receipts. BPA is a known endocrine disruptor. So it binds to hormone receptors in the body and it can activate or block them. It is associated with heart disease, unfortunately, so it can increase your risk of heart disease. And BPA, along with phthalates, are linked to lower fertility. And you know, at my age, I have a lot of friends and a lot of people in my life that have really struggled with fertility, and it's made me wonder. I haven't done the scientific research, but it's just astounding to me how many people struggle with fertility. So it makes you wonder why are so many people struggling with fertility? And I don't have the statistics, but I know it's on the rise. And I think a lot of this is driving this issue. So the phthalates, by the way, are a group of chemicals that are used to soften and increase the flexibility of plastic. So you can notice some plastic bottles are harder, some are softer. A lot of the ones now are very thin and they crinkle. So that's what that is used for. Probably a cost saving thing. So now, as far as childhood obesity, obviously that is a very big concern. Childhood obesity continues to be on an upward climb, and there is conclusions that BPA is linked to childhood obesity. So limiting the amount of plastic that we're using in our lifestyles, that we're drinking out of, things that are stored in plastic, are all things that we should be looking at cutting back on for all of these reasons. So how do you tell if a container has BPA in it? The number 7, if it appears on the plastic container, it indicates that it is made out of a BPA containing plastic. If you want to go to the EWG.org website, that's the Environmental Working Group.org, you can find a lot more information about this and dig in a little bit deeper. As far as the buying, or as far as things that you can do, you know, buy the glass. Pyrex, Anchor, I think, are the 2 biggest brands of containers, and store your food in glass, especially if it's something that you're going to be taking with you for lunch, or you're storing it and you're popping it in the microwave to heat it up. You know, especially like soups and stews, anything that's liquid. You know, if you're just storing, I don't know, some baked goods in there, then not as much of an issue. But if it's a liquid, especially, and then you're putting that in the microwave, you really want to invest in some really good quality glass containers to store your food. And as far as reusable plastic bottles, you know, invest in good stainless steel. If you can see me in the picture, you know, a good 32-ounce stainless steel where you take this with you and you put filtered water in it and that's what you drink. We got some more people joining. So, and then for your receipts at the grocery store or any store for that matter, you know, go digital. Not for sustainability purposes, but also the ink that's used on receipts have BPA in them. So if you're handling receipts a lot, you want to make sure that you're washing your hands, that the chemicals and the dust, the thermal paper doesn't get on your hands, and that you're washing your hands after. So those are just some really easy things that you can do. Now, if you are somebody who buys, I know a lot of friends who will buy a big bulk thing of bottled water and keep it in their car throughout the winter and in the midst of the summer. That's a really bad idea, because that plastic, is going through these temperature changes. You don't want to be freezing and unfreezing, putting a bottled water in the freezer to freeze it and then have that last all day and drink that. That's not a good idea, because the expanding of that plastic releases those plastic particles and the BPA and phthalates into your water, and then you're consuming it. So that's not a good idea. Obviously, there's a time and a place for drinking bottled water, and it's healthier than drinking other things or not drinking water at all. But getting into the habit of drinking filtered water and investing in a stainless steel bottle that you can use is a healthier practice. For cookware and pans, cookware to be wary of is anything that's non-stick, like a Teflon coated cookware, aluminum, or copper. Those would be things that can leach the heavy metals into your food. So those would not be as safe. Safer cookware would be opting for, and I just noticed it should say opt for PTFE or PFDA free, not FT. So anything that on the package of your cookware that says PTFE or PFDA free would be better options, or stainless steel is good, enamel coated cast iron is good, ceramic or ceramic coated or titanium would also be safer. It's been a little while since I've done a deep dive into some of the more greenware pots and pans. There's so many of them out there. If you ask me questions about this, I probably am not going to be able to answer. If you want me to be honest with you, it's been a long time since I've done a deep dive into the specifics, but this is just the general information I want to share with you. If you have more information about which pots and cookware would be ideal, I recommend going to consumerlabs.com, looking for safe, non-toxic cookware, and they do updated reviews of all of the cookware out there. The picture I have on the screen here is a ceramic coated pan that I personally have. I've had it for a few years. It is quote unquote a non-stick, but it is a ceramic coated, but they no longer make it anymore. So things come and go all of the time. So that would be my suggestion there. For body and hair care, from cosmetics to shampoos to lotion to nail products to soaps and deodorants, these all can contain less safe ingredients. I don't want to say necessarily toxic ingredients, but if you want to learn more about better for you, non-toxic, healthy body care and healthcare, I recommend going to these two websites on the screen, safecosmetics.com or ewg.org Skin Deep. Again, a little bit out of my realm of expertise. I use these as a source for myself personally to take a look at products that I purchase and that I'm using, and it gives me a guide to finding better for you products. Same thing with cleaning products. You will find that information on the EWG website. So, with the pandemic happening, I know a lot of people went out and bought all kinds of cleanware, Lysol sprays, and all of those things to clean your home. But I would take a look at the EWG website and look for better for you, less toxic cleaning products. And then I put this on here because I think it's appropriate to talk about when it comes to fluoride in toothpaste. There is strong evidence that supports it may be associated with thyroid issues. So when there's excessive fluoride in the body, it can interfere with the function of the thyroid gland and therefore has been linked to thyroid problems. Obviously, mouth care is extremely important for good health. Plaque buildup and gingivitis is connected with increased risk of heart disease, inflammation, and chronic disease. So this is a reminder to floss, 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 floss. Floss daily. If you think you potentially have thyroid issues that may be a concern for you, I recommend that you speak to your doctor or your dentist before you discontinue, just stop using fluoride. But I think it's important to note that that is a concern, a potential concern. Dioxins is something that they're persistent organic pollutants, and it's just byproducts of industrial processes. Chlorine, bleaching of paper pulp, of manufacturing of some herbicides and pesticides, and basically it can cause potential reproductive or developmental problems, damage the immune system, interfere with hormones, and could also potentially cause cancer. So these are, harder to avoid, but very important when talking about things that are in our food supply. As for food, okay, we're going to jump into food. So we find all of these things in our food, from processed foods, preservatives, additives, colors, flavors, emulsifiers, bleaching agents, poor quality soil, genetically modified foods, alcohol, caffeine, so forth and so on. So as far as dairy and animal products, there are a certain level of hormones and antibiotics, pesticides that are used in the production and in the animal feed. So non-organic cow's milk may contain what's called IGF-1, and that is insulin-like growth factor, which can promote undesirable growth like cancer and accelerate aging. So IGF-1 is one of the most powerful promoters of cancer growth ever discovered for breast, prostate, lung, and colon cancer. For seafood, the concern around seafood primarily for many, many, many years has been about mercury levels. So taking the whole sustainability piece out of it when we're talking about detoxification and the negative side effect of some fish is the level of mercury. You can see here on this chart, the best choices of fish would include those cold water fatty fish, and then at the bottom there, you can see the fish to avoid would be the bigger fish like swordfish and shark, striped bass, or king mackerel. So the larger the fish, the higher mercury content it would potentially contain. So, sardines and anchovies, the smaller fish are less of a concern, and they're even loaded with those omega-3 fatty acids. So those would be really good options. For artificial sweeteners, they're artificial, they're chemically made in a lab. They've been known to cause metabolic issues, damaging of the nervous system, and promote bad bacteria. So refined sugars. Obviously, I think at this point, the majority of people, of Americans, we know that high fructose corn syrup isn't doing anything good for us, and that it's really something that we should completely be eliminating from the diet altogether, sugar altogether. So if you've ever heard me talk, you've heard me talk about, eliminating added sugar in the diet. And then brominated vegetable oil is a concern. It's primarily used to help emulsify foods and drinks like sodas, that helps to keep things from separating. But it has potential endocrine disruptor properties and can affect the nervous system as a depressant. So endogenous toxins are things that our bodies create all of the time from normal metabolic functions. Our healthy body can eliminate them on a normal daily basis every single second. But if we're missing certain nutrients, then, and we have an overload, then we really struggle a little bit more so with detoxifying properly. The liver really can't handle excessive amounts of toxins, and so they store them in fatty tissue like the brain and the nervous system. So as you can see, just let alone all of the environmental pieces that we've already talked about, filling your bucket. So if we can do our best at cleaning up our environment, cleaning up what we put on our bodies and what is in our environment, that lowers the burden, and then we can focus on food. So I'll just briefly explain, the organs that are a part of the detoxification system include your liver, your GI tract, your kidneys, your skin, your lungs, and your lymphatic system. So your liver acts as a filter. It takes fat-soluble compounds and it turns them into water-soluble compounds to be excreted through urine or stool. The liver's role, which pumps about 7.5 cups of blood through the liver every single minute. It metabolizes protein, fat, and carbohydrates. It balances blood sugars. It aids in hormone balance. It filters viruses and bacteria from the blood. It produces a quart of bile every day. And it's integral for the digestive system. So signs of a struggling liver could be slow digestion, inability to digest fats, slow, sluggish metabolism, sugar cravings, irritable bowel issues, abdominal bloating, fatigue, aches and pains, foggy brain, migraines, hormonal issues, immune system issues, thyroid issues. So these are all symptoms of a lot of different health concerns, but these are all signs of a struggling liver. Now, I put this picture on here just so that you can see how complicated it is. When we talk about liver detoxification, there's phase 1, phase 2, and there's also phase 3. Phase 3 is excretion, so elimination of the body. Phase 1, you can see that there's all different types of enzymes and cofactors and nutrients needed to help rid of those free radicals and turn them into metabolites, which then end up going into a whole nother system to be activated and excreted. So complicated, but these are important. So taking out from phase 1 here, the nutrients that we need as cofactors are riboflavin, niacin. What you see here, these are all B vitamins. So B12, I think a lot of people know about B12 and how important that is. And as you get older, your body has a little bit more of a difficult time actually absorbing B12. That could be because over time we lessen our microbiome and it kind of gets worn down and we don't maintain that good gut bacteria. But we need glutathione, which neutralizes free radicals. Glutathione is one of the most important antioxidants that your body makes and keeps you from aging, essentially. And then BCAAs, branched chain amino acids, are very important as cofactors that help facilitate that first phase. Folate, flavonoids, phospholipids, all of these things are extremely important to the phase 1 part of detoxification. Now, phase 2, right? If we're missing any of these and we're deficient, then we might not do a great job even at phase 2 here. So I won't go into detail. There's lots of big words on this screen. But essentially, those enzymes convert the transformed metabolites into water-soluble compounds for excretion. So you can see that all of these pathways can be slowed down or halted or messed up without proper nutrients and cofactors. So for that second part, the cofactors that are needed in sufficient amounts through diet are vitamin A, vitamin E, which are fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin C, which is a water-soluble vitamin, adequate amounts of selenium, copper, zinc, manganese, CoQ10. If you're on a statin medication, that will naturally deplete your body of CoQ10. So we really want to make sure that your diet is balanced, loaded with lots of good quality, colorful fruits and vegetables, is where you're going to get your bang for your buck with a lot of these antioxidants, vitamins, and micronutrients and minerals. I'm not going to go over this screen in too much detail, but going back to organic chemistry, how your body takes all of that and methylates it. It cleaves the methyl groups into substrates, and then it needs those cofactors to do its job. It's involved in the modification of heavy metals, and it regulates gene expression, it regulates protein function and RNA processing. If any of you have had conversations with me in the past, maybe we've talked about the, genetics, nutrigenomics, and that MTHFR gene may come up. I believe it's estimated about 40%, don't necessarily quote me, it may have changed, but at one point it was about 40% of the population has this MTHFR gene, which basically means we're not detoxifying well. We're not methylating folate or folic acid like we should. So this is where personalized nutrition approach comes into play to take a little bit of a deeper look at how your body is functioning and what you may need extra of. Okay, with all of that being said, let's jump into a little bit more of a realistic approach here and what we can do with food. So I think it's important to notice, what are you eating? How are you feeling? How are foods affecting you? Checking in with yourself, where are you feeling out of balance? How is your stress level? Are there certain foods that you crave? Write down what you eat in a day and start connecting the dots. So preparing yourself, looking at food labels, cutting out sugar and processed foods obviously is a great place to start. Cutting out refined oils. Eating a whole food, real food based diet approach is what we all should be doing. So, taking a look at even what's in your kitchen and your pantry, doing a rehaul. Drinking more filtered water is probably the #1 place that we all could start. Taking a look at the quality supplements, depending on what you're taking, maybe they're not the highest quality supplements. Bringing out the blender, making some smoothies if you're finding it hard to get in some good quality fruits and vegetables. Smoothies are a fun way to go. And, telling your friends and family for support. If you're really having a hard time taking that first step forward, telling your friends and family for support, coming to me as a dietitian where I can help you individually get on the right path. But, don't go it alone. Do it with friends and family with a support system. Now, as far as resetting, and maybe instead of doing an actual detox, I would encourage you to really eat this way forever, but maybe taking it a little bit of a strict approach for 14 days as a reset to eliminating the following on the list: limiting or eliminating completely added sugar. Going cold turkey on added sugar for 14 days. Might not be the best approach for you, but really we should be eliminating added sugar altogether. So do 2 weeks of a strict elimination and see how you feel. Cutting out dairy, alcohol, caffeine, processed and fried foods, refined carbs and all gluten, cutting out refined oils, all refined oils, animal meats, except for allowing organic eggs or wild fish, chemicals. And, obviously if you smoke cigarettes, that's something you should immediately stop doing. Don't have to tell you that. And then generally anything that you can't pronounce probably are things that maybe you shouldn't be eating. So obviously, if you're going to do this, well, and you're used to eating some of these things on a regular basis, well, what are you going to eat? Replacements are key. So when it comes to sugar, you can use a good quality maple syrup, maybe some stevia or monk fruit, some dates, dried fruits, vanilla, coconut or cinnamon. Technically speaking, maple syrup is considered an added sugar. But there's a time and a place for it. If you're going to use it as a vehicle to eat something that is healthy, then fine, having a little bit of maple syrup is fine, or honey. So for dairy, you could try avocado. Nutritional yeast is a condiment, I guess I would say, that adds a cheesy flavor to various things that you could make. There's a couple brands of non-dairy yogurt that you could try. Kite Hill or Delicious Almond Yogurt are two quality probiotic organic yogurts. Or you could try a different alternative milk like hemp, almond, coconut, or make your own with nuts and water in a blender. For caffeine or coffee, you could try green tea or matcha or a white tea, some kind of herbal tea. And then for alcohol, you could try kombucha as an alcohol substitution, which is a fermented tea. I recommend choosing a kombucha that has 4 grams or less of added sugar per serving, and choose organic when possible. For replacements of processed foods, so if you're used to eating, I don't know, something crunchy like chips and crackers, have some nuts and seeds instead of chips. So maybe some walnuts, some almonds, pumpkin seeds are my favorite thing to recommend. They're loaded with iron and zinc and magnesium, and they're good source of plant-based protein and fiber and good healthy fats. Mary's Gone cracker are a less processed cracker. It is still a processed food, but it is more of a whole food based cracker. And then Simply Mills would be a better for you option of a less processed cracker. Same with Flackers, or there's a brand that's called Seidel. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it is a seed-based cracker. For refined carbs or gluten would be anything that has wheat, barley, or rye in it. I would opt for, or I would suggest that you go whole grain based, with whether quinoa, brown rice, oats, teff, buckwheat, flax, chia, and then for substituting a pasta, going with spaghetti squash right now would be great, or some spiralized veggies like zucchini, or even spiralizing some butternut squash or sweet potato. Having sweet potato as toast in the morning, like sliced. They sell it even in the freezer section, but you could just make your own, and then putting some almond butter on a toasted sweet potato is fantastic. Or some riced veggies like cauliflower, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, butternut squash, different types of medleys they sell in the frozen food department, that are just plain vegetables chopped up into rice size. So those could all replace refined carbs. As far as veggies, focusing on whole fruits and veggies. The brighter, the better. Go green, green, green. We all could use some more green and color in the diet. So cruciferous veggies like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, bok choy is probably one of my favorite vegetables that I eat on a regular basis, and can go in so many different things, either by itself or in a quick stir fry. Dandelion greens, Swiss chard, all of those are considered cruciferous veggies. So they contain sulfur, and they're fantastic for your liver, and they're anti-cancer fighting, immune fighting, all around. Cruciferous veggies are probably one of the healthiest groups of vegetables that you could consume. As far as arugula and watercress, those target that phase 1, phase 2 detox that I was talking about. They have glucinolates in them. And berries like blueberries and raspberries, pomegranates, cranberries even have protective effects, and they're lower glycemic. Seaweed like kelp or dulse, for example, you could toss into some soups or salads. Celery, there's lots of information about like celery detox. You don't need to go on a celery juice detox. But the nice thing about celery is it does have a component in there that acts as a diuretic. It helps to increase urine output, but it's a very water-rich vegetable as is. So celery is a great thing to consume for various reasons, but don't need to go on a celery juice cleanse. Now, beets and artichokes, Jerusalem artichokes, fantastic. Organic apples, citrus fruits obviously have lots of vitamin C in it, so that helps to reduce heavy metals and free radicals. And for obviously fiber is key. Fiber is key for your gut and for those microbes for those non-fermentable carbohydrates, non-fermentable fibers, for those probiotics. But the roughage of the fiber helps to sweep out your colon. It helps to act as a broom to rid and detoxify things out of there. It also helps to get rid of glucose and cholesterol. So fiber is a great detoxifying food to consume. Now, when you are eating and upping your fiber intake, you also need to up your water intake. You never want to up your fiber intake without making sure you're matching equally an increase in hydration. So ideas, getting more fiber into snacks. I think people think of snacks as generally kind of like unhealthier snacks, but really we should be focusing on, whole food, fruits, veggies as snacks, getting in some good quality salads in the springtime with some fresh greens, lots of colors, some quick stir fries, still even roasting sheet pan meals, sheet pan roasted veggies is a great way to meal prep if you don't have a lot of time. Throwing veggies into a smoothie, zucchini, cauliflower, yes, they can go into a smoothie. No, you really don't taste it. Adding in vegetables, obviously, into soups. You can still have soup in the springtime. If you were to Google, for example, I don't have recipes right off the top of my head, but if you were to Google healthy spring soup recipes and you're looking to maybe lose some weight, it is a fantastic way to go. Soups are really low in calorie and you can jam pack so much nutrition into a soup. So soup is not offhand in the springtime. It's not just a winter food. And then you can roast some kale chips, roast any kind of veggies really and make them into chips for a nice snack, something to have in your refrigerator. So for plant-based sources of protein, experiment with beans and legumes. Green and red, brown lentils are fantastic. Mung beans even. Think in terms of recipes for beans and legumes. Think in terms of dips. Taking beans and turning them into a dip that you can use with some mini bell peppers. Putting them into soups, or even taking a blender. If you're making a tomato-based sauce, adding some beans and pureeing them, it'll make a creamier tomato sauce for your pasta or for your spaghetti squash. And then obviously you can add them into salads. So nuts and seeds, Brazil nuts, pistachios. Pistachio is the only nut that is a complete amino acid. Walnuts are one of the only nuts that contain a loaded amount of omega-3s. Almonds are fantastic. They have more calcium than any other nut. So it's great to get a variety of nuts and not always eat the same one. As far as seeds, chia, flax, and hemp, all extremely omega-3 fatty acid rich. great for adding into your diet. One of my favorite ways to use hemp, and especially now with having a herb garden going, I love pesto, and I will use hemp seeds instead of pine nuts to make a pesto. Goes great on some spaghetti squash. You can add it to some lentils. You can put it over salmon. You can add it onto some roasted broccoli. So many different things that you can do it. But I am the pesto queen. I love, love, love it. Doesn't have to just be with herbs. You can make it with, a bitter arugula, some spinach, whatever. But get in some more seeds like chia, flax, and hemp. Take some berries, mash your berries, add your chia seeds to it, let it sit and gelatinize and soak up the liquid from the for fruit and make a chia jam. Absolutely delicious. So unprocessed organic soy is, there's a lot of information about soy. That's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. But soy in general, for most people, if you don't have digestive issues or whatever, 2 servings of organic whole food based soy has been proven to decrease the risk of cancer, and is a great plant-based protein source that can also decrease cholesterol. So whole food based soy would be like tempeh, tofu, edamame, miso. And then for animal products, for protein, you would want to opt for organic, grass-fed, or wild caught would be ideal. So as far as whole grains provides lots of vitamins and minerals, but they add, fiber. So buckwheat, all of the ones listed here are gluten-free options. And then for healthy fats, think avocado, olives, nuts, seeds, coconut. Experiment with new oils if you're not used to some of the ones listed on the screen. My recommendation is to have extra virgin olive oil that's used for no heat or low to medium heat, so about 350 degrees or less for an extra virgin cold pressed organic olive oil, or an avocado oil that is for a higher temp cooking. So we're getting into grilling season. Avocado oil can withstand that higher smoke point, so that would be a better for you, higher temp oil to use. Now, if you take that extra virgin olive oil and you're marinating a piece of chicken, for example, you've made your own marinade and then you're going to go put that on the grill. Well, that right there is going to bump up your detoxification system, because now that extra virgin olive oil has just been heated to 500 degrees and it's oxidized. So it's an oxidized, now it's become a toxin, and your body needs to detoxify that. It's no longer healthy for you. So you don't want to heat extra virgin olive oil up to a high temperature. So you want to be careful with what types of oils you're using, because of those things are one of, probably I would say, one of the biggest food sources of refined foods that act as a processed refined toxin to your system. I mean, there's oils and so many different things, from breads to cakes and cookies, obviously all of the unhealthy pastry type things, but oil is in everything. So you really want to take a look at that and clean that up. For herbs and spices, cilantro and parsley in particular help to bind heavy metals. So they're chelating spices and herbs. Rosemary contains carnosol, which is known as a detoxifying enzyme. Turmeric has curcumin, which is the active component in turmeric, which gives it that healthy component. So you want to pair turmeric or curcumin with black ground pepper, which increases the absorption of that gives it the healthy properties. It protects against oxidative stress. It increases the production of that glutathione transferase enzyme, which is important for detoxification. And then onions, garlic, they contain sulfur, which supports the production of that glutathione again. Ginger is a great thing. And not only are all of these things healthy for you, but they also add lots of wonderful flavor. And then fluids, fluid. Water, 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 filtered water, water, water. If there's anything you take out of today, it's going to be making sure you're really meeting the amount of fluids that you need in a day. And it's probably more than what you are drinking. So if you really take check of how much you're drinking, I can't tell you exactly how much you should be drinking because I don't know how much physical activity you're doing. I don't know how old you are. I don't know how tall you are, what your body weight is, but I would have to estimate everybody on this call probably should be drinking at least a minimum of 8 cups a day at minimum. So it does include your hydration levels do include green, herbal teas and things like that. So seltzer, if you're drinking kombucha, if you're making an infused water with some mint and cucumber and lime, that's a great thing to add. For tea, nettle and burdock tea, you will see it's promoted as a detoxifying tea. And there is definite benefit to that in terms of it activating phase 1, phase 2 of your detoxification system. So having some nettle burdock tea wouldn't be a bad thing. So yeah, there's that. And then so other things that could be helpful, some condiments listed here on the board. I add sauerkraut and fermented vegetables as a condiment because it really can, it's essentially acts as a vegetable on your plate. But I like to think of it as a condiment also because it can be added to so many things. So, if you're looking for good quality ones, the brands I like to recommend would be Cleveland Kraut, Mother-in-Law. It says mother-in-law. It's supposed to say mother-in-law. Ozook, Bubbies are good brands that you can find at most grocery stores. And Tamari is like a gluten-free soy sauce, or coconut aminos, which is a lot lower in sodium than any of the others. So these are all different types of very healthy, straightforward condiments that you can be added for cooking. And then as far as desserts, if you need a little something sweet, I just put some ideas up here on the board. As far as maybe a smoothie, which could be act as a sweet treat, but a healthified sweet treat, is definitely not a bowl of ice cream. So cocoa or cacao powder with a frozen banana or berries with a date or two and maybe a little nut butter and some milk in a blender could be a absolutely nutritious and clean dessert. Rice pudding that's made from sweet brown rice, almond butter, coconut shreds, a little vanilla, a little maple syrup in there, and some milk, or a milk alternative like an almond milk or a hemp milk or a flax milk. Chia seed pudding, where you would use about a 1/4 cup of chia seeds to a cup of almond milk, and then maybe add some nuts and seeds, some pumpkin seeds, or some vanilla, coconut, cinnamon, maple syrup for a little extra flavor. That would be a great way to boost up those omega-3s and get in some extra fiber and protein. And then one of the things I like is to take a date, which is very naturally sweet, and dip it in a little bit of almond butter, and then dip it in a little bit of hemp seeds and a little bit of cinnamon. Acts for a very chewy and satisfying. Takes a little while to eat. It can kind of be a little dry, I suppose, but it really takes the edge off if you're wanting something a little sweet, a little savory, that is very fulfilling, yet nutritious. It's a great option. Now I'm going to be offering a class, a whole hour long class on juicing and smoothies. But the Cliff Note version essentially is I'm not a fan of recommending juicing. Juicing often comes into terms when talking about detoxing, especially on Dr. Google. But juicing, you're really missing the fiber when you're juicing. So why remove the fiber from a really nutritious, what could be a smoothie? So I would say choose a smoothie over a juice. Smoothie does maintain that fiber. It's just pulverized and pureed. So a smoothie will act though as a liquid surge of sugar. So I would say if you're somebody who likes smoothies, great, fine, that's fine. But the act of actually chewing and eating the food. So let's say you're having a salad with spinach and cucumbers and apples and whatever else in it. The act of actually eating that salad, it's going to be slower. It's going to take you a while to eat. You're going to get a little bit more of the roughage there, and it's going to have a better response on your glycemic control than blenderizing it and pureeing it all up and drinking it as a smoothie. But smoothies are a very common and easy, convenient thing to have, and an easy way to add in lots of nutrition. So there's a time and a place for that, and there's a time and a place for some juicing as well. But if you're going to pick and choose over which one, going with the smoothie is going to actually be better for you than a regular, than an actual juice. And I think easier to make, especially at home, one less gadget to have. You don't have to have a juicing machine that takes up all the space. And then I'm not getting into the whole supplemental realm of detoxing. There's way too much to share there, way too much information. That's a whole nother class in and of itself, which I don't know I'm really prepared to actually dive deep into. However, I will mention milk thistle as being a supplement that has a great benefit for your liver, for detoxing. You will find nettle or some bitters or milk thistle in different types of adaptogenic functional beverages available in a lot of stores nowadays, some of which some of you have probably heard me talk about before. Gold Thread Tonic Drink is one of my favorite ones. The green mineral one has some of the nettles in there, but milk thistle is an extract from flavonoids, and it can increase that glutathione synthesis, which I showed you as part of the detoxification system or your liver. And it prevents the depletion of glutathione. It protects the liver from damage, acts as an antioxidant. It increases the rate of liver tissue regeneration, and it is generally considered to be safe. So as far as any supplements that you may have questions about, this would be one that I would say would be a safe one that you could take as a capsule or a supplement. Okay, so, okay. So in summary, here we are, we've made it to the end. So the best detox is a balanced, healthful eating plan along with plenty of fluid and water that promotes regular trips to the bathroom. Yes, going to the bathroom, upping your water intake, upping your intake of water-rich vegetables and fruits is going to make you go to the bathroom more. But guess what? That means you're detoxifying. So that is a great thing. And then it's more reasons to eat more of those wonderful, colorful fruits and veggies. And I'd encourage you to think of, I think a lot of people when planning their meals, think about the meat and then plan as the center of their plate, and they plan the rest of their meal around the meat. I want you to think about making vegetables the center of your plate, filling at least half of your plate with vegetables, as well as your snacks, and think of meat as the condiment on the plate. So that is my challenge for you. And as far as anything else, I'm just going to do a quick time check. We are over time because I talk a lot, but I think most of you stuck with me, so that's good. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat box here. and we can get into answering some questions. But I want to thank you all for attending, and there's so much more to know, and I'm excited to have you continue come to all of the future programs. So I think we'll probably switch over now to Sarah. I don't know if you want to jump in or